What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy StephenMotivate. We are back again with another special episode. Super excited. We got a special guest. I met this gentleman because my business neighbor. We're in a small little business park, and my business neighbor happened to introduce me to him. He is, does his own podcasting. He comes from the NASCAR world. We talked for maybe 15 minutes, but he blew my mind with his ability to understand business. He was talking to me about, retail stuff, planograms to, nonprofit things, just all over the map. And you can tell that this guy has a lot of experience. He's been around, and I'm excited to learn from him. So I know you're going to be excited to learn from him as we kind of dive into entrepreneurship, but I don't feel like I did the best job. So Troy, without any further ado, please introduce yourself a little bit to the people and,
Well, thank you, Stephen. My background is pretty diverse, right? So I use the word NASCAR auto racing, and I'm very skeptical about saying that because usually when I say motorsports, someone says, well, the battery in my car, right?
Yeah.
Or, what kind of tires do I need to buy? Or, something motorsports driven.
Yeah.
Right? Or car driven, automotive. NASCAR doesn't really get the credit it deserves for people who have grown up in the sport. I have almost 30 years experience in it. The cars that go around in a circle are the result. It's not the why.
Yeah.
So a little bit about our conversation when we first met about planograms and advertising buys, those kind of things. For those cars to go in a circle, they need to be funded. And to be funded, you need to know what the ROI is of Coca-Cola and Kellogg's and, just all the major brands across the United States that use NASCAR as a marketing platform.
Yeah.
So my background really comes from my exposure to corporate America and the Fortune 500 companies that immerse themselves in the NASCAR experience.
Wow. Now, what was it? So let's just jump right in. Was it always like that with NASCAR? I mean, and we're in NASCAR country for people who don't know. North Carolina. I didn't know this when I first moved here. I didn't realize that you got a lot of the teams are here. You got, I don't know if all the teams, but there's a ton of drivers here. They've got their shops here. The shops are massive. They got NASCAR Hall of Fame here. Really cool to go through and look at some of that stuff. But in terms of like how folks get funded or even think about it, I don't, and maybe you know this or not, but is that how it's always been with NASCAR? Has it always been like, hey, we've got to have some strong sponsors. We got to connect with corporate America, or did it start off differently from that and kind of morph into, a business that really gets support from corporate America as well to get those cars around the track?
Well, the initial start in NASCAR was very different than what it is today.
Yeah.
And it's very different on the direction that NASCAR is going, working a lot with hedge funds and mutual funds and, the stock market, and a lot of investors are getting involved in the sport today. So it was started, back in the old days with moonshine, right? So the moonshiners, would, say my car's faster than your car. And you say, oh, really? And then next thing you know, they're in a NASCAR event and they're competing against each other with all the things that they learned to make their moonshine cars outrun the revenuers.
Wow.
And so it grew over time.
Yeah.
In the early 90s up until the late 2000s, really got immersed into corporate America, and the marketing plan that was put in place still stands strong today, but not a lot of people know about it, Stephen.
Yeah.
And so what I've been able to do in my consulting business is take a different view, a different look to business owners on what they really do and how they need to get the correct exposure.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So with you did NASCAR several years, a lot of experience, and now you're doing consulting. Talk about that, because we like to help people get excited, I guess, about the fact that you don't have to, you can be entrepreneurial without quitting your job,
Yes.
number one. And there's probably a lot happening. There's probably a lot of experiences that you're gaining on your job that might ultimately help you in your entrepreneurial career. Right.
Right.
So talk about how you took, you took your experiences from NASCAR and some of the lessons you've learned as you've moved into consulting and helping small businesses, helping, big businesses, nonprofits learn how to take some of those learnings to apply it to, be successful in whatever they're trying to do.
You probably poise that up just perfectly, right? So people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They get out of bed, they put their feet on the ground every morning, get a cup of coffee, get ready for work, head off to a job, and that's what they think they do.
Mm.
And really, in practicality, what they do applies in so many more areas. So to be entrepreneurial, they need to understand the skills that they learn in their job, not the what they do, but the skills that they learn in their job. And
that's good.
That's really what happened to me in motorsports, right?
Yeah.
So a gentleman, his name was John Stillwell. He was the vice president of Ashland Oil Company. And Ashland had a brand called Valvoline.
Oh, wow.
And he was over the Valvoline brand. And he called me up. He was a partner in motorsports. They were a sponsor. And so I formed a relationship with him over a number of years, and him being a sponsor for the sport and getting to see him at the racetrack. And, when it rains outside, you have nothing else to do but sit around and conversate.
Yeah.
So John calls me one day and he says, "Hey, Troy, I'm coming to North Carolina. My parents are aging out. They're on Lake Norman, and I need to be closer to them. So I'm going to go ahead and take retirement, and I'm going to move to North Carolina and buy a business. And I would like your help if you'd be so kind to do that." And I was like, "Okay, John, like, not really sure what you're asking, but, when you come in, just, come by the shop here and get me."
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
So John flies into town. He gets him a rent a car and comes by the race shop, and I jump in the car with him and we ride down the road. And I said, "You got to help me here. You really do. So you're going to buy a business. What kind of business are you going to buy? Because you're in the oil business, right?" And he just kind of laughs and he goes, "No, business is business. It don't matter what." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And he's like, "A business. I'm just going to get a business." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, we'll be fine. It'll be okay." So it was interesting, and I'll cut through all the different businesses we visited, but one in particular that he ended up purchasing. We rolled up in the parking lot, right? I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And we walked in the front door of the place and got introduced to the owner that was there. And John says, "I'm going to go in the conference room and I'm going to look at the books. And I need you to go in the back and check out the manufacturing part."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here.
What I'm looking for, but
like what I'm doing, why I'm here. Why did he ask me, right?
Right.
And so I went in the back and I walked around. I talked to some people, was really interested in what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
This particular company was a plastic manufacturing company that built shoe displays for like shoe show, shoe rack, all those plastic clear pieces that go on the wall.
Yeah.
They would build those.
Wow.
In different store displays.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching these people manufacture different things, and, I'm trying to pick up stuff for motorsports. I'm like, we've got this Lexan for windows. What can I learn about Lexan? What can I learn about all this?
Yeah.
So I'm walking around, just talking to people and seeing what they're doing. I get done. I walk up into the conference room and he's like, "So what'd you see?" I was like, people making plastic parts, right? And he kind of laughs and he's like, "No, like, what did you see?" And I said, "I'm not sure what the question is." And he goes, "What would you change if I bought this company?" And I went, "Oh." And so I started rattling off all the different things. inefficiencies, the ways to make things easier, the moving parts around, moving people around, getting different pieces of equipment that would make their jobs easier. And it goes, and that's why I brought you.
Wow.
And at that point, it kind of dawned on me that the skill set that I learned in motorsports wasn't cars going in a circle.
Wow.
It was truly efficiencies, how to do things quicker, how to do things more efficiently, how to do it for less money.
Yeah.
So it turns into Six Sigma and lean manufacturing.
Right. Yeah.
Which I didn't know what that meant either. As I was certified as a black belt in Six Sigma, I had no idea that it would transcend into my consulting business after I retired from motorsports.
Wow, that's amazing. So all the while you're working with cars, and cars run around on the track, and of course you're doing the marketing, and you're understanding a piece of that. The oil company wants to support or have Valvoline, but even beyond all that, underneath the surface, you're learning like this skill set that's probably just happening naturally. Like all of a sudden, every day, you're figuring out, you can notice when something's inefficient because you're in a business that efficiency is key, or is huge, or is like, if you're inefficient, what happens in motorsports? Like
you lose.
You
don't win
lose.
the race, right?
Yeah, you lose. So it's like those pit stops and all that stuff. It's got to be no wasted time. Wow, that's crazy. That's
and people, right?
Yeah.
So it's taken 350 of the biggest egos in the world and having them go one direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So and I say this, there's not a lot of college football coaches. They have a lot on me because in motorsports, we had the best of the best.
Yeah.
So
explain that. What do you mean best of the best in terms of drivers,
mechanics, engine builders, fabricators, transmission builders, anybody who was at the top of their game in automotive, all aspired to be in NASCAR auto racing at one point or another.
Wow.
And so when you get those kind of people all in the same room, you've got to figure out how you get them to all go in the same direction. And that's, motivate, like, your company.
StephenMotivate. But so let me ask you this, because this is really fascinating, because, sometimes we struggle with, are we on the best team, or do you have the best people around you? Or if you're like an entrepreneur, you're trying to build your team. But what is the challenge when you're dealing with the best? Like, it's no longer an issue of talent. It's like, NFL coach or NBA coach, like you said, everyone's already good at basketball or at football. So what's the, so it's not like you're trying to get people to be good necessarily, but yeah, talk about how you get people going in one direction when everyone's good.
So you have to help them better understand themselves. So for you to better interact with each other, you need to understand yourself. You need to understand how you give and receive communication and how you're perceived when you're communicating with others. So it's not necessarily the, point a finger at somebody and say, I told you to do that. And if not, you're going to do 10 push-ups. That's not how we do things, right?
Yeah.
It's helping those individuals truly understand themselves and how they fit into the pieces that need to get accomplished in the tasks. So it's truly behavior analysis. I didn't realize that there was a science behind it.
Yeah.
I had to learn through practical experience.
Right.
And later in life, I found out that there was a science behind it. And when I looked into the science, I was like, well, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, they don't. So, we all have different personalities, right? We all give and receive information differently. And most people don't understand themselves. So they don't fit into a team environment very well because they don't know themselves.
Wow. So they don't know how they're coming across, or how they're, like you said, or even how they receive information best. And so that's in a way affecting how so they never fit in.
They never fit in the team.
they never get what we're going after, what we're doing because
Mhm.
because you're not fitting into the overall thing. So helping people understand themselves better or
Mhm.
getting them to that's really deep.
So there is a science behind it. So
Yeah.
if we use like disc profiling,
Yeah.
right? There's a D, an I, an S, and a C.
Yeah.
All of those are different behaviors,
Yeah.
right? So if you go into a room as a high D and you're always right and nobody's listening to you, well, no, it's not necessarily no one's listening to you. It's the way that you come across. So if a high D is speaking to a high I, typically they're not going to get anywhere
Yeah.
unless they both understand themselves, they understand how they come across,
Mm.
and they adapt their behavior to be able to communicate better.
So that makes total sense now. Because I think I'm a high D or a type A or whatever,
Type A, high D.
high D, all
Yeah,
that. But to your point, you got to figure out a way to adapt it. Because sometimes if you're dealing with a high D, okay, everyone, you can talk rough and gruff or be really direct, but with certain people, that's not the way you need to come across. And
correct.
you're doing more harm than good to just be blurting out the answer or just giving a command when you need to adjust okay, makes sense.
I have a saying, Stephen, it's know what you know.
Mhm.
More importantly, know what you don't know. Surround yourself with people that are stronger in areas you're weak. Empower those people. Give them the tools to do their job and get the hell out of their way.
Yeah. Good. That's good. All right, I think my team would like to, would love to for that to be said or put on a poster so I could stay out of their business. No, that's good. Okay, so tell me more. I mean, what else would you tell to entrepreneurs? I mean, you picked up these skills that whether you knew it or not, they were super transferable. How did the business go? He bought the business. Was it
Yeah.
did
So he ended up buying a business, became very successful at it. He is now retired. His son has taken the business over
Wow.
and doing quite well.
Wow.
And it's all about people,
Okay.
communication,
Okay.
right, and business.
In business. Break that down. So it's all about people. And so, okay, I'll throw out the questioning. So, if is that your three things, right? He bought a business. That's one way to be entrepreneurial, which a lot of people don't realize.
Right. It's already operating.
It's already operating. Go buy a business
Right.
instead of trying to start everything from scratch. So that's a gem in and of itself. Is
Right.
find something and go buy. And the fact that he was like, at least from the story, so nonchalant about it, like business is business, not a big deal. Oil company or plastic company, there's a lot of transferable things that. So I think that's really cool. But if we're telling entrepreneurs, hey, think about buying a business, let's go back over the three things. Are these the three most important things? What'd you say? People, communication, and what was the last one? You
The
say
process really is
Pro-
if you want the three best things, right?
okay, yeah,
So you need to have a process within your business and what you do
yeah,
and how you most efficiently conduct that process. So most people that I meet have more money at the end of the month in the bank than they had at the beginning of the month, and therefore they are successful.
yeah, yeah,
And that's not true, right? And then
yeah,
you get talking to them about, how their business operates and the efficiencies and everything, and they're like, "Oh, no, it's fine. We're making plenty of money. We're doing good. And you go, but if you implemented some of these methodologies,
mm-hmm,
some of these approaches,
yeah,
you would be that much better."
yeah,
So my first question to any entrepreneur or any business owner is, what is your exit strategy?
mm,
So if you don't have an exit strategy, right?
yeah,
Why did you get the girl pregnant?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Because basically that's what you're doing
yeah,
in business, right? You start a business. Okay, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to hand it down to your children? Like, what are you going to do with this thing? And
yeah.
most people don't even think about that.
Haven't even thought about it.
Right. And what happens, Stephen, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow,
Yeah,
right? Who takes over the business? What happens to it?
yeah,
What are your employees going to do? They going to come to work the next day and do their job, or
yeah.
everybody's just going to stand outside and cry? I mean, what's going to happen?
Right.
No one thinks about that.
Yeah. Wow. even seasoned, successful 20, 30-year business people
Yep.
aren't thinking about that.
And some people have inherited the business from their father or mother,
Mm-hmm.
right? And lost the direction on why the business was started in the first place and what they're going to do when they exit.
Yeah. Over time, they just why are
goes
we
away.
doing this? Yeah, this is just what I do. I don't know why I'm doing it anymore.
Right.
So that's the first question you ask.
Yep. Like, what's the exit strategy?
What's the exit strategy?
Like, what are you going to do with this? Why even start?
And the process, if you don't have the right, well, the processes is just keeping the business going. But at some point, the processes need to be leading to something.
Right. To the exit.
To the exit.
Right.
We're doing this because if we sell it, we're going to be more valuable if we've got some processes in place.
Right. The EBITDA, we're going to go, we're going to start selling. We're going to flip this thing onto the stock market.
Yeah.
Right. Go IPO.
Yeah.
Or, that's an exit strategy.
Yeah.
Right. Because now you've turned the business over to a publicly owned entity because it's now stock driven.
Yeah.
Or are you going to, sell it?
Yeah.
You're going to build it up, flip it over and sell it.
Oh, that's great. And I think I think you're right. I think that's a huge thing. People aren't thinking about it, and that's probably a good thing to think about. Like, what's your exit strategy?
Right.
Why are you doing this? And do you want to do it forever? Do you want to pass it down? Do you want to sell it? That's a good question.
And the same thing comes true when you're hiring people. So the number one question that you should ask a future employee is, what's your exit strategy? Like, what are you going to do when you leave this company?
Yeah.
What knowledge are you going to gain while you're here? And how can I, as a business leader that you will work for, help you reach your goals?
Yeah.
But no, everybody's like, no, I want you to come in here. I'm going to put my thumb down on you. I'm going to scream and yell at you when you come in 5 minutes late. And, right?
Yeah.
You're like, no.
Boom, 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 boom.
Like, how do you partner with that employee and say, what's your exit strategy? What would you like to learn? And where are you going?
And how can I be an asset to you on that journey versus just let me squeeze everything I can get out of you? And
right. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
And most people don't look at employees as partners, and they are. They are, what drives your business.
Yeah.
And if you take care of your employees will take care of you, and your business will thrive.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so that's the people thing. So if we got processes, we're thinking about the exit, we're thinking about good people, partnering with them, which, that's mind blowing. My employees are not just employees, they're my partners, and I'm their partner. And we need to be thinking about their goals with this thing, what their exit strategy is as well, versus just what, it's like the famous line, don't think about what you can do for your country or what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. But as a boss or as a leader, it's maybe, don't only think what your employees can do for you, what can you do for your employees or your partners? I mean, that's good. That's how does that, if you start thinking like that, what happens? What changes for people?
Success.
Boom.
Like, so I've witnessed, spoke to, walked through, interviewed with businesses all across this country.
Yeah.
Even some across the world.
Yeah.
The most successful businesses are the ones that treat their employees like partners. And they're all in it together.
That's awesome. That's great. That's a gem. Hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm loving it. Okay.
Well, Stephen, what's the number one question that everyone says, you want to learn about a business? You need to go ask the janitor.
Yeah.
Why do they say that?
Because that's in theory, like the lowest guy on the totem pole, on the hierarchy.
But if the janitor was a partner, he would tell you as a business leader what needs to happen to improve the business. Now, wouldn't he?
He would.
So why do you have to go ask him if he's a partner? Right?
Yeah. He would tell you.
He would tell you.
Wow.
He'd say, "Hey, boss, if we did this, we'd probably have a lot more success."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Good on you. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And let's make everybody's life better."
Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. I love that also because, I say I believe this. Hopefully my actions prove it. And if not, I hope they, develop to prove it. But that folks have equal stature. Like, the person cutting the checks is no better than the guy receiving the check. Like,
Correct.
we aren't necessarily, the richest guy in the room doesn't mean he's better than everyone. It just means that, he's responsible for more dead presidents than the rest of us. But, so I like the idea of not only for the employer, but also for the employee to approach opportunities where it's like, do you feel like there's a partnership there? Do you feel like there's a buy-in? Do you feel like your voice matters? So I think that's really good. So what about the communication piece? Communication's huge for businesses in your experience. So what do you mean by that?
So communication is the things that we just spoke of, with the janitor being able to feel like his voice is heard when he can come and say, "Hey, boss, this is what I think we need to do to make it better."
Yeah.
So that communication needs to flow freely throughout the whole company.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, that you will have people that bicker. You will have people that aren't always happy.
Yeah.
But you need to understand from where they're coming and help them better understand the business as a whole. Because if they don't understand the whole business, they only understand the piece that they're involved with or the piece that they control,
Yeah.
which is typical. They don't know what everyone else's job is and how it all fits in.
Yeah.
So that communication of helping everyone within the business understand everyone else's job, not necessarily because you want them to do it, but more so they know how they fit into the business. And be able to communicate that throughout the whole business is key.
Yeah. That's good. And so if hypothetical situation, if someone, because we're talking and it's maybe these situations seem a little bit more rosy than people would, I don't know, imagine. So let's say there's a big conflict and you've got an employee that's upset and they've lost their temper. How would you suggest, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with conflict when you're trying to lead and be an entrepreneur and that sort of thing?
So is the conflict with the employee something that is controlled within the business? Or is it an outside conflict within their own home that is being brought into the business? Right. So we so often don't know where each other are. Right. So a female that works within the business that is a single female, she doesn't have a man figure in the home, and she's got 2 or 3 children. Right. And one of them's in dance and one of them's in basketball. Right. And the other one's playing baseball. And she's trying to figure out when she gets off work, how I'm going to feed these kids and how I'm going to get them to all these different places.
Right.
It's stress.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't understand that, you don't know your employees that well, is that affecting that person at work that causes them to act out with another employee? So you've really got to look at this much deeper than just, oh, these 2 people aren't getting along. Like, how deep does it go? How far out does it go? And what can you do as an employer to make life easier on those people while you're still accomplishing what needs to happen within the business?
And I love that. So my question to that is, does this only work for small businesses? Because it seems like in a smaller business, I can get to know you. I can kind of know your name, your family, da, 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 da. How do you get that sort of thinking to pervade when you're looking at a big Fortune 50 company where if the CEO knows your name, you're lucky, right?
Right.
So how do you deal with it in that scenario? Are you still able to know people? Or you know what I'm saying?
So there's a rule of 7, right? Some people have different numbers. I use 7. 7 seems to be a good number. You can only manage 7 people.
Mm.
So as your business grows,
Yeah, that's good.
you end up getting managers and supervisors or whatever titles you give people that oversee a group of 7 people,
Tops.
tops.
Yeah.
And that person can really get to know that 7 group of people.
Mm.
By doing that, you can get better control of your company.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess, what would be there's so many I feel like this is probably why you're in consulting because you're coaching because I feel like you've got this way where it's like this could just blossom into sharing life and okay, this is what's going on with me. So I could see why that makes sense for where you're going because even you seem easy to talk to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you seem easy
Thank
to
you.
talk to and kind of I think that's important and good. And I think maybe that's what you're telling us too is like when you're being an entrepreneur, whether you're with customers or even with employees or your team, like that's super important. Caring about people, being able to communicate with them. And then of course for the business processes will help everyone. So I don't know, I guess what's the best advice you've ever gotten in your life?
Be patient. I think we're in much too big of a hurry. I had to learn that the hard way,
Mhm.
and we need to be patient.
Yeah.
So patience is something that we take advantage
Mm.
of. I say we're victims of our surroundings.
Okay.
We're in a society today that wants everything now,
Very much so.
right?
Yeah.
Cell phones have not helped us a bit.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they have, but in a way, it's hampered us. And ability is everything is right there at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that patience gives you the time to think,
Mm.
gives you the time to process
Mm.
and make the right decision.
Mm.
So, like with emails, don't answer them right away.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You can write it, read it again, and think about it, and then send it. Patience.
Yeah. That's good because yeah, I'm super impatient, I feel like. And but as life has continued going on, you realize there's a lot of stuff you've worried about. I was worried about this place, this podcast thing. I was just worried about stuff. And it seems like over time it either works itself out or if you have a goal in mind, if you work at it, even if you think it's not gonna happen, typically it's like, I don't know, it somehow happens. Well, I guess I'll tell you this. So I've had this thought in my mind about, wow, a lot of things that I wanted to occur have occurred, right? I left Lowe's. I started being working on the vendor side, and I always wanted to help another product get into Lowe's. And those are like my biggest goals. And all that has happened. But at the time where it hadn't happened yet, I was very like, I hope it happens. I hope it happens. I hope it, and it was probably too consuming. Whereas I feel like, to your point, patience, it's like, oh, if you just wait a bit, yeah, set your goal, yeah, have a target. But in my mind, it's like, man, I should have made a bigger target because I've actually achieved what what I wanted to. It just took a little while. It took 5 years. Which,
Patience, right?
yeah, patience. But in 5 years now, it seems like not that long of a time. Now that I'm older, if you would have told me when I was saying I wanted to do it, it's like, no, I want this to happen this year. I don't want it to wait 5 years for this to happen. But it's like, oh, it happened and it's all is good.
Right.
Like it all is well still. So, and now I don't know, maybe it's because I have kids now and things seems like my oldest daughter's 4. It's just like, I don't know, seems like things are happening too fast,
Right.
So I think that's good wisdom is just to, so the best advice you've got is be patient.
Be patient.
Read the email, multiple times before you send it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
It'll
that's just one, that's
yeah.
just one case,
It'll
right?
save you some trouble. No, that's good. So, how do you okay, there's another business question. How do you find people to work with?
I'm very blessed that my phone rings.
Mm, yeah.
So I'm a problem solver,
Yeah.
right? And so the 6 degrees of separation,
Mhm.
where if you do well with somebody and they're in a conversation with someone and they say, "Hey, I've got this problem," they go, "I know this guy,"
Yeah. And
and,
that's you.
and my phone rings.
Yeah, that's good.
And I've been extremely blessed with someone telling somebody who tells somebody makes my phone ring.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So it hasn't been so what can entrepreneurs learn from that? I mean, you've just got to treat that one client like your last or your best or just what would you tell entrepreneurs about that or feel like they're struggling to get business or struggling to get clients or how do they get to the point where their phone rings?
It's really simple. Say what you do and do what you say.
Mm,
It's that simple,
yeah.
right? So you've often heard that, don't set expectations that you can't meet.
Yep.
Well, no, just do what you say what you do.
Yeah, that simple.
That simple.
Don't say too much, don't say a bunch more, don't
Yeah.
oversell,
Yep.
don't just say what you do and do what you say.
Yep.
That simple. Well, where'd you learn to live life and with that simple principle?
So when the green and checkered flag falls every week,
Yeah.
you don't have a lot of time to think about it,
Yeah.
right? So you've got to put a plan in place. You've got to be able to communicate with people very efficiently so that you can come up with a solution,
Mhm.
put that solution into action, and run that next race.
Yeah.
So every week there was another race,
Yeah.
right? And truly, by the time the car left on the hauler, you had 3 days to solve a problem.
Wow.
So you didn't have time to have a meeting,
Yeah.
right? So you go, "Stephen, this is the problem. What can your team, like the engine shop, you know, the body shop, the wind tunnel team, what can they do? So you need to tell me what you can do without overextending yourself."
Yeah.
You go, "Troy, this is what we can do and this is what we can get done.
Period.
And if I call on you, you better be able to make it happen."
Yeah.
So you learn very quickly not to oversell yourself,
Yeah.
right?
No, that's awesome. Oh, so much stuff I want to ask you. Um, but I think that's good. Like the patience thing is good. I think that's and the fact that just say what you do and do what you say. And don't do too much. Just if you're gonna say it, do it or don't say it,
Mm-hmm.
basically. How does motorsports, in your experience there, lead into business and what you're doing now?
So interesting story. Gentleman's name was Steve Toki. He was the brand manager of Gatorade when they were owned by Quaker Oats.
Okay.
He would come to the racetrack and represent Gatorade as a brand
Mm.
and make sure that all the teams had Gatorade. The people in Victory Lane were wearing a Gatorade hat. I mean, he was basically a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
But more importantly, he was working with other corporations at the racetrack, building relationships to be able to sell case goods,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And I formed a relationship with him over the years, and he would come to my pit during a race
Mm-hmm.
and got to know him really well over a period of about 10 years. And one day he told me, he said, "Next time you're in Chicago, I want you to come visit me and we'll have a beer." And I was like, "Awesome." I was at the National Hardware Show selling signing autographs.
Mm.
And long story short, the guys wanted to go out. I didn't want to go out with them. And I said, "Hey, I'm going to go visit an old friend." And when I got up with Toki, he sat across the table from me and he said, "What do you do for a living?" And I laughed because this man knew me.
Yeah.
He knew what I did. And I was like, this is a trick question, Troy. You need to answer it correctly. And I was like, I managed 350 of the biggest egos in the world. There's no college football coach that has anything on me.
Yeah.
And he laughed and he's like, no, that's not it. And I said, so I take 350 people skilled in every facet. We take raw materials. We build a car that goes 200 miles an hour. He's like, yeah, no. And I was like, I give. What do I do? And he said, you rub elbows with Fortune 500 people all day, every day, and they want to be you. And I was like, I'm sorry.
Wow.
And he goes, you don't understand that. And that's why we're having this conversation. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, you don't understand what I'm trying to tell you. You think you're an auto racer, and you're not.
Wow.
He said, Ed Renzi, the CEO of McDonald's, who I was working for at one time, he goes, he comes to the racetrack in blue jeans, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt. He sits next to you on the pit box. You look at people. You don't point. You don't yell. You just look at somebody and things happen. And he's going, how do I, as a CEO of a corporation in the United States,
Wow.
have the power to look at people and stuff happens? They want to be you, Troy. And I was like, really?
Wow.
And as I got understanding that all those people that come to the racetrack are truly in blue jeans, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt. But if you go to visit them in their business, they're in a suit and tie, right?
Yeah.
And they don't have time to meet with you.
Right.
But yet they're in my cell phone.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's how I got in the consulting business, because when I retired from motorsports, my phone rang with corporate America going, can you help me with this problem? Can you help me with that problem? Can you come do a motivational speech to my employees?
Yeah.
And it just blossomed. I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
It just happened.
Wow. That's really cool, because there's so much to get from that, but you took whatever you were currently doing so serious, or you did it so excellently. Like, you didn't forsake where you were at, trying to lobby to get to the McDonald's CEO or the Gatorade guy. You were just doing what you did at the time well, really well, to the point where your work, the way you showed up there kind of spoke for you. And then the fact that you were even willing, humble enough to say, no, I'm going to go listen to somebody else, just give me a different perspective. And this guy, what a great story. Gives you this great, he tells you, like, these guys want to be you. I mean, that's awesome.
Right.
That's really cool, because you were doing the thing you were assigned to, whatever your 9 to 5 was. You're doing that so well. And now that's led into this, part 2 of a continuing career of cool things, where now you're helping problem solve for these guys.
Right.
So that's awesome. So I think, to our listeners, the cool thing is that, like, don't forsake what you're doing right now. Trying to run away from what we're doing because we're so impatient. We're waiting for the next thing. We're trying so hard to get a client or get a CEO on the phone. It's like, sometimes if you just do what you're currently assigned to really well, people will notice that and things will come to you.
I say that about our community here in North Carolina. I'm in a small community called Harrisburg. It's in Cabarrus County. It borders the 16th largest city in the United States, which is Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Charlotte is also the 4th largest city on the East Coast.
Wow.
So the who's who of corporate America in Charlotte does not live in Charlotte corporate. They live in the surrounding communities, the bedroom towns. Bedroom towns like a Harrisburg.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think about it and you think really hard, those people have children. And those children are where? On the ball field on Saturday morning.
Mm.
And they're doing what? Wearing blue jeans, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt.
T-shirt, yeah.
So if you want to meet presidents, the vice presidents, the CEOs of the world, you're going to meet them on a ball field cheering on kids.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. That's good. We're out of time, I think, because this is gonna go on for the rest of the day. But tell people where they can find you online and in person, and some other ways they can connect with you in general.
Yeah. So any social media that's out there, the Instagrams, Facebooks, YouTube, Vimeo, the
Yeah,
video.
Yeah.
I have a website, troyselberg.com. Reach out to me, not necessarily that I'll take you on, but we'll have an interesting conversation.
Yeah, because whether they take you on or not, if you just talk to Troy, your mind's gonna expand, and you're gonna be, just you be better for it. At least that's been my experience. So
awesome.
Thanks, Troy.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing just a brief part of what I can tell is a lifetime of great stories, awesome experiences, and a lot of wisdom on what to do and how to think about not just business and not just entrepreneurship, but life in general. And so we appreciate that. Any final words?
No, just know what you know. More importantly, know what you don't know. Surround yourself with people that are stronger in areas you're weak. Empower those people. Give them the tools to do their job. Stephen, get out of the way.
There you have it. Until next time, stay motivated, folks. Peace.